It's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another episode of My 2 Cents. This morning, we are looking at the fastest growing debt category in the U.S. It was shocking. I just knew it was student loans, but according to Experian, it is not. We're going to take a look at that, and also an article about most millennials not being able to afford a home. 75% to be exact of millennials may never own a home. I'm sure you can guess why, but we're going to look at that as well here on this episode of My 2 Cents. But you know the routine. Make sure you click the thumbs up, losers, click the thumbs down, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to click that notification bell to receive more videos like this. And before we get started, though, I do want to set the stage with an article that Wolf Richter wrote at the beginning of this month. Wolf is a great column writer for both his website and even on Zero Hedge, and we've seen him. I'm sure you guys have seen Wolf on the Kaiser Report with Max Kaiser before, but he's talking about this state of American debt, Q3 of this year, 2019. What are we doing? Where are we in this debt slave paradigm? He talks about paying the university corporate financial complex and the big bifurcation. So he's saying that student loan balances jumped 5.1% in the third quarter compared to Q3 of last year, or by about, get this, $80 billion to a new horrifying record of $1.6 trillion, having skyrocketed by 120% in the last 10 years since Q3 of 2009, according to the Federal Reserve data release Thursday afternoon. Over the same 10-year period, when student loans soared 120%, the consumer price index has increased 19%. Student loan balances are 7.6% the size of the GDP, up from 5.1 in 2009. So look at this chart, people. 120% increase over 10 years. Unsustainable, especially when you would think, since having the debt crisis of 2008 and 9, you would see some type of, pullback in this debt cycle, especially in student loans. But no, they make the requirements more lax. They allow these students to just pile in here, get these worthless degrees, and look at where we are now. 1.64 trillion total non-seasonally adjusted dollars. The explosion of the student loan debt is not because there is an explosion in enrollment in higher education. On the contrary, actually, according to the latest data from the National Center for Education Statistics, enrollment fell by 7% between 2010 and 2017. But those fewer and fewer students are borrowing more and more to pay for tuition, transportation, electronic devices, and other things that the university corporate financial complex gets rich off of. In this article, Wolf also touches on auto loans and leases, says that total auto loans and leases outstanding for the new and used vehicles in the third quarter rose 4.3% from a year ago by $50 billion to a record $1.19 trillion. Over the past 10 years, since Q3 2009, auto loan balances have surged 62% compared to the increase in the consumer price index of 19% and a population growth of 8%. So, on an inflation-adjusted per capita basis, the burden of these loans has increased. In terms of the size of the overall economy, auto loan balances have ticked up from 5.1 to 5.6. And so here we go with the auto loan chart here, up 62% in 10 years. We saw a dip, quite naturally. We saw a dip right after or during the initial financial crisis, but then we had all that liquidity pumping in, easy loans, and boom, just skyrocketing. We need more debt to fuel this economy. It can't sustain without more and more debt. So let's look at credit cards and other revolving credit. It says outstanding balances on credit cards and other revolving credit, such as personal lines of credit, but not credit secured by housing, such as HELOCs, rose 3.6% in quarter three compared to quarter three of last year to 1.04 trillion, not seasonally adjusted. This was a record for a third quarter and was the second highest quarter ever. So as you can see, with credit cards and other revolving credit, we're actually not too far off of where we were at the peak in 2008 and 9. So that's interesting to see. This QE is not helping the individual here, people. This is a prime example of QE, all these QE programs not helping individuals directly in their pockets to put into the economy, into the marketplace. No, the QE has inflated stocks and bonds. Of course, we have to keep that college industrial complex continuing. So that's where the easy money was going. It was going to fund those types of activities. And so Wolf goes on to talk about total non-housing consumer credit. So he says student loans, auto loans, and revolving credit combined into Total consumer credit, which excludes housing related credit such as mortgages, jumped by $193 billion in Q3 from a year ago, or by 4.9%. Wolf says and finalizes here that the real problem that needs to be dealt with in terms of student loans is the cost of education, not who pays for it. He says the costs are driven by primary beneficiaries of all this, the university corporate financial complex. And I agree with him. But, I just wanted to set the stage and show you guys kind of the different areas in which we've seen a trend from bottom left to upper right corner in all of these charts, even though one that was at least almost, and I was surprised before reading this, was the credit card and other revolving credit. It's just a tad bit higher than where we were in 2008 and 9. So either there's more room for that bubble to inflate, or we're at max capacity here with personal credit cards and other revolving credit. We'll have to see what happens in the next 12 months. But all this is to show us that, millennials are probably never going to be able to buy a house. This report from Apartment List shows that 75% of millennials may never be able to afford a home, or owning a home, I should say. And that's largely because economic hardship, or at the very least stagnation and heavy debt, is perhaps the single defining characteristic of the generation that came or aged during or just after the financial crisis, nearly destroying the global economy. And so it says that while many had hoped that millennials would find their footing and their economic prospects would improve with time, sadly, that's just not the case for millennials. And in this latest study of millennial attitudes toward the housing market, Apartment List found that a growing percentage of those surveyed said they'll fully expect to be renters forever. And unsurprisingly, the percentage of respondents who felt that home ownership would be forever out of reach was in expensive urban enclaves like New York City and many cities across the state of California. But in my opinion, everything has to revert back to the mean. Those areas are going to cool off, and are going to cool off faster than some of the other areas that haven't grown as fast. But look at this chart here. This is the percentage in 2019 who plan to always rent. And it's wow. I mean, look at the far right here. We've got San Jose, surprisingly, Detroit, Michigan, St. Louis, Missouri, San Francisco. So it's not just the most expensive, surprisingly. I thought it would be, but it looks like there's a mixture here from right to left here. The lowest being Nashville, Tennessee, percentage that thought they would always rent at 3.6. So interesting to see that this list on the x-axis was not concentrated as much as I thought it would be. And you guys see that on the screen, or pause this video to take a look at it. But that's interesting to see. But perhaps the most alarming finding from the study stems from the research examination of student debt, which we just talked about, and how the burden of making their monthly loan payments impacts their ability to save for a down payment. At the current savings rate, just 25% of millennial renters will be able to put down 10% on a medium price starter home in the next 5 years. That means that 75% of millennials likely won't be able to afford a down payment anytime soon. And here's another table here that's showing the percentage of millennial renters that can afford a down payment on a medium price home in the next 5 years. So look at this. And, including 5%, I mean, that was unheard of many years ago. 30 years ago, you always had to put 10-15% down. You had to put some earnest money, some skin in the game when owning a home. And that's really how it should be. You shouldn't be able to buy a home with a down payment of 5%. I'm sorry. It honestly should be no less than 20%, like a commercial loan. Residential loans should be the same way. But we're so far in this game of house of cards, if you want to say, that we can't reverse now. But look at this. You can pause this video to check out this table. But that was alarming to see the percentage of millennials that could afford a down payment of 20, 10, and 5% at current savings rate. And then to the contrary, if their student loan debt was forgiven, you can see those numbers as well. Absolutely insane. And I'm going to just give you my 2 cents on the whole situation. I understand where this article is coming from. Absolutely. A lot of millennials can't afford it because of student loans. But I think also we have an issue of consumer behavioral shifts. Millennials do not have jobs that they can say safely they'll be able to stay at for 30 years like we used to have. The okay boomers, 30 years, kick back, relax, put the feet up on the desk, chill out, smoke a cigarette in the office and be good. Not anymore. I don't even know anyone who has any expectations to have their job more than 10 years or be in that job for more than 10 years. It's a different pace. Again, I've been talking about it for a while on the channel. AI is going to be a critical and integral part of the shift in human capital usage or need. It's going to eliminate even more jobs. So the situation that we're setting up for doesn't bode well for anyone looking to do a 30-year mortgage. Why would they take on that commitment? We're, our generation, the millennial, we ride Ubers, we're driving cars less and less. Long-term anything commitments is the thing of the past. And you're going to have the Generation Z and all the ones under that. They're really not going to be familiar with permanency and being somewhere for 30 years and taking a loan out. What? That's crazy. So I think it's a consumer and generational behavioral shift as well. And maybe one was caused because of the other, or maybe not. Maybe they're mutually exclusive. I don't know. But that's what I see being a big cause of it as well. And so what I want to show you what people are going to start doing, and this is out of Zero Hedge. LA imports are paying $800 a month to live in a coffin. This is what's going to happen here, people. Millennials are going to start living in tiny homes. They're going to start living in these types of affordable capsule living style environments, simply because, again, millennials do not want to have anything where they're locked in. They don't want to have that type of scenario, especially if they don't have kids. And more millennials are having less and less kids as well, because they understand the costs when, they have kids. So this is the trend, okay? And this is going to directly impact mortgages. And you're going to have a lot of homes empty because you're going to have a lot of people consolidating and living with one another, or living in these types of what they're calling capsule living environments. This is what is going to happen, people. You can live in a shipping container for $37,000. Why wouldn't you? Order it from Amazon. How about that? You can order your house from Amazon. And I'll leave a link to this thing in the description below. I couldn't believe this when I saw it, but this is the future. This is the future, people. But to the actual article, what caught my attention and had me talk about this on today's video was this fastest growing debt category, and it wasn't student loans or credit cards. Ironically enough, personal loans are growing at an 11% annual clip, according to Experian, faster than student loan and credit card balances. Credit card debt can be consolidated into a personal loan, but origination fees, potentially high interest rates, and lack of perks make this less appealing option for borrowers. So this is what we're starting to see here. Is this the next bubble? Maybe so. These things can't sustain, okay? The only reason they're sustaining right now is because of the easy money being injected into the system from the top down. The article says it's the fastest growing debt category in the country, but if you are thinking student loans or credit cards, you're wrong. Personal loan balances now exceed $300 billion as of the second quarter of this year, according to Experian, a whopping 11% yearly increase for good reason, as personal loans can help to consolidate credit card debt and make funds available for major projects such as a home remodeling effort. For many of us, the allure is hard to ignore, but personal loans do differ in some key ways from other types of credits that you might use, such as credit cards. So I just wanted to kind of highlight this is what we should be paying attention to. Getting a personal loan to pay off another loan is not fixing anything, just creating more debt. And that's what this system needs, as a debt-based system. We have to create more debt to keep this thing going. So it just kind of goes through benefits of doing a personal loan over maybe, let's say, a credit card or other types of debts. So you guys let me know your thoughts. I was really shocked when I saw this stat. And it makes sense, because the debt has to rotate into another category. Though I will say that our credit card and other revolving debts are not too far off from its highs from 2008 and 9. So maybe there is still some room for this bubble to grow, but it only take one of the other categories of debts to collapse and then affect all other categories. So, this is a house of cards we're dealing with, people. This is a house of cards, but this is what we will see for millennials going forward. Tiny homes. I'm going to leave a link so you can buy your tiny home from Amazon for Christmas. It's your boy Crypto Blood. That's my 2 cents. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to receive more informative videos like this. I'm out of here. Holla.